Hey everyone, I hope you're enjoying the 2021 Black Enterprise Virtual Entrepreneurs Summit. I'm Selena Hill, the Deputy Digital Editor at Black Enterprise. And during this session, I'll be speaking with marketing maven, entrepreneur, influencer pioneer, and philanthropist Karen Civil about turning social currency into capital. Karen, thank you so much for being part of our summit.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. I know in this COVID-esque friendly world, whatever this is, I'm glad we can still have these conversations and things and just bring it into people's homes.
Absolutely. And we're super excited to have you as well. Karen, I think many people know you as a trailblazer in influencer marketing, as well as for your work with hip hop stars like YG, Lil Wayne, and of course, the late Nipsey Hussle. But on top of that, you also work with huge brands and organizations like Beats by Dre and the NFL. But I want to start this conversation to give our audience a better idea of how you got your start.
I got my start, honestly, I was a fan, a love of music. I grew up on 106 in Park and TRL. And being able to see women like Ananda Lewis and Angie Martinez, honestly, was my saving grace. I come from a West Indian home, and in our home, it's like you have it's like they have like a small criteria of careers and things that you must accomplish in order for your parents to see you as successful by like a certain age. So by 30, I was supposed to be married, kids, and some sort of job in the medical or legal field. I am not good with blood. So the biggest thing was I was like, okay, I got to figure out what I want to do. When you have a brother who is a surgeon, you have another one who is a detective, and you are the only girl, they're looking like, okay, what's up with you? But honestly, I wanted to follow my own path. I wanted to figure out a career for myself. And conversations that have been coming up now, which I was having with myself at the time, is I want to change the narrative of, what my family deems successful. I don't necessarily want to do I don't want to do it in the order that you see fit for my life. This blueprint that's created before you were even born, I just wanted to tear it up and start anew. So, God, thank you so much for such an incredible mom who continues to push, thrive, and make things happen. I love my dad a lot. My dad was somebody who wasn't necessarily, he didn't get it. To this day, he still doesn't, but he's like a silent cheerleader, but he just didn't understand it. He said, if this is what you want to do, don't complain to me later. So it honestly started love for TRL, 106 in Park. And then from there, it was like, I needed to get an internship. Angie Martinez had this apprentice contest back when everyone loved Trump. It's a little bit different now. Certain people may be on the fence, certain people may love him, whatever your political choice is. But back then when he had, what was his show called? The Apprentice. It was his second season. She did a version of it. I entered. And one of the questions was, why do you want to work for me? I said, listen, I fell in love with you. You don't have one title. One title doesn't make or break you. You're somebody who I hear on the radio. It's not, we lived in a day and age where it just mattered what you look like. I didn't care what Angie wore. I just know when 9/11 happened, I was listening to what she had to tell me. When Tupac passed, I was listening to her. When things were happening in our climate, when the elections and everything, I turned on that radio from 3 to 7 because Angie Martinez was basically my 10-10 wins, or, the news for me at night. It was just, she encompassed everything. So I wanted to be around that. So I tried to get an internship with her. Unfortunately, I didn't make the cut, but Funkmaster Flex liked me. I got to work with him for a few years. And that's really what it took. It was that one internship that was my way into the door. And I did not let it close on me at all. I just busted wide open and I was like, I'm here to stay. If you guys want 100%, I'm gonna give 120%. If I'm supposed to stay till 9, I'm gonna stay till midnight. First to come, last to leave. And I made sure that I did everything that was expected of me, not asked of me. I never wanted, flex to ask me for anything. I just wanted to make sure it was done and I was a part of the team. And that honestly helped.
Karen, thank you so much for just walking us through your early days before you sort of blossomed into this media maven and mogul. Another thing that you were on very early was the internet. And I know that sounds like a little foreign, but you were really using the internet and websites as a strategy before I think a lot of us were. I read that you were paying very close attention to like message boards, Twitter, MySpace. And in fact, one of your claims to fame was developing Lil Wayne's fan site when he was behind bars, and you developed this website for him. What is it that sort of drew you to the internet in a way that I think is very different from the way a lot of other people were using it?
Honestly, it started from, like, I deal with social anxiety and I'm an introvert. So my parents didn't understand that, they just assumed like, okay, she's quiet, she just wants to stay home. I'm like, no, I just don't know how to like talk and engage in a crowd. But for some reason, when I'm in front of my computer, I'm as comfortable as possible. I can be myself. So rather than me finding myself shying away and going, oh my gosh, I'm not liked, I'm not whatever, I just gravitated towards what worked for me and what helped bring out my personality, what helped me honestly feel normal. It was something that it didn't even start out as a career. It was a coping and helping mechanism to help me like feel like you think about this when you're in elementary, like I'm in elementary school. I'm like, okay, I don't fit in. I don't know what like other kids are talking about. I just felt so out of place. So now here my mother is, she gives me this computer. I get these AOL discs that are coming into the mail. I'm able to have relationships and friendships with people outside of my environment. At 7 years old, you can't say to your mom, hey, I want to go to China. It's a little bit different now, but I can go, hey, I want to go to China and just see people. Hey, I want to go to Florida. Can we go here? Can we go there? Can we do this? I wanted to travel. I wanted to meet new people. I wanted to get outside of my environment because honestly, I didn't fit in my environment. Being a Haitian American named Karen Civil at the time, people didn't know what I was, who I was, and everything else. I just felt so foreign. So now here this internet was where I can connect and make friends with people, where back then we had pen pals. It can take weeks to months. Now it just takes a couple of hours to correspond with someone. And I had a love for the Backstreet Boys. Not a lot of Black girls did. And I found myself on this message board becoming friends with all these amazing women or girls from around the world who were also other fans. So that's when I realized early on the internet can give me what I want. MTV had this show called MTV Fanatic, which I entered. And I didn't end up winning, but I came like in second or third through Jive Records. And that was another confirmation that the internet can give you what you want if you use it properly. So yes, it helped me gain friends. It helped me with my social anxiety. But at the same time, too, you can turn this into a career. It didn't make sense at the time, but I said, I'm going to stick to this hobby because there's so many people who have hobbies and love for things. At this time, obviously, now we have social media managers, digital directors, and everything else. But when I mean hobbies, I'm thinking like those people who are collecting like Beanie Babies and all those other weird little things. I'm calling them weird now, no disrespect to anybody who does them. But like people who would collect these things, I would be watching these stories and on the news would be featuring them. And they'd be like, oh, I sold it for this. I did that. I'm like, so your hobby can be a career, even if you're a collector or this or that. So I said, I know eventually loving the Backstreet Boys is going to get me to where I want to be. And honestly, it was just that small little piece. It started out with creating a fan site for them. I created one for one of my favorite actors, J.D. Williams, who played Bodie on The Wire, and then just continued to go from there. But the most important thing to me is as the platform was created or I knew something was coming, I'm reading the message boards. I'm seeing what the latest updates with what they're doing, how they're pushing stuff. Even to this day, when people talk to me about, say, referencing, let's use Instagram as an example. Oh, my algorithm this, my algorithm that. I'm like, okay, did you see their latest update? This is how you can see your responses. If you tag someone in a post, it does this now. They're really pushing reels. Like, are you making sure that you're utilizing that? They're like, well, how do you know this? I said, you know, Instagram /blog. Same thing, Facebook /blog. A lot of these things, a lot of these companies and social apps and different things, they have all the information out there that lets you know what's going on with them, that you can go and read, you can find out. The great thing about social media is when you're in this digital space is you're always learning. It's always new information to take in. So the great thing I will always love about Lil Wayne is this was more than 10 years ago, where Wayne, and especially Mac Main, who is the president of Young Money, he took an opportunity with me. When I was interning for Flex, I said, hey, I tried to approach him about a name site. He didn't understand it at that time. But then lo and behold, maybe 2 years later, the name site took off. And one of the first people to do well with it was 50 Cent, and he had thisis50.com. So when Flex saw that, he said, oh, this is what you wanted me to create. I said, yes. So, at that time, he didn't understand it. But when he was ready, I love the fact that he knew to call me. And I was able to then create In Flex We Trust with him. With Wayne, when he was incarcerated, he wanted to figure out, like, how can I connect with my fans? What could I be doing? I cannot be writing hundreds of people back. Like, I'm gonna get carpal tunnel syndrome with my hand. Like, what is going on? So putting some my thinking cap on and things, I said, my answer to everything, create a site. So we created WheezyThanksYou.com. It was spelled particularly in a way that he talks, updating his letters once a month, him responding to fans. It was able for him to be engaging, interactive, even though he was dealing with an unfortunate situation. But this was pre-Twitter, pre-Instagram, where you have these close connections, because you have to think years ago, for the people watching, think years ago. If you wanted to get to a celebrity, you had to write a fan club. Then after you write the fan club, you don't know if you're going to get a response. The PR may get back to you, or somebody may respond. You never know. So, with Wayne, the great thing about this is fans felt like he's somebody who was very unattainable, #1 rapper in the world. You don't really get to talk or hear his thoughts like that. Now it felt like you had a connection with him. So it worked very well. This was in 2010. It worked very well for him. He had a #1 album in the country. Vogue magazine gave it best blog of that year. So it was such a great pivotal moment, because everything I believed in and everything I said from years prior, I want the average or the person watching this to understand. I had these ideas probably when I was 18, 19. I didn't get a chance to actually implement them till I was 26, 27. So that's years in between. But the thing was, I never took anybody else's opinions as defeat. I didn't take, the world not catching up to my ideas. I was way advanced. And I didn't take anything as defeat. I said, my time and the purpose and everything will come. I would just make sure that I am prepared for the blessing. And that was 2010 was one of the most incredible years, being Wayne getting #1 album. Facebook, he has the Guinness Book of World Records for that to this day. Most amount of likes and fastest amount of likes. He beat Oreo. I mentioned #1 album. I'm never letting that go. Funkmaster Flex launching his In Flex We Trust. He had the only interview with Wayne, which was audio and video. This is how we launched Flex's YouTube and his website. And it worked out phenomenally. I was just so happy, to a point. After those two and betting on myself, I didn't need a resume anymore. And I haven't had one since. Beats by Dre came calling, all these other companies, and people wanted to work with me because I was doing the work of an agency, but I was solely one Black woman from Elizabeth, New Jersey. And people were so taken back by that, because at this time, yes, tech and social and digital is going into, we're seeing new hues. When I say hues, we're starting to see more of our colors and things like that, and coding and stuff like that. But then they didn't think this was a space Black people wanted to be in, especially Black women. So being able to just like bust through that door and just come in, turning my hobby into a career, and finally understanding, like, okay, Karen, you found something that works, that matches a disorder that you have. that also helps you in your career, and you get to live a life full of purpose that makes you happy, and you're not worrying about the life blueprint that your family created for you.
Karen, hearing you tell that story is so powerful and inspirational. I've heard it time and time again, but it's like you're hearing it for the first time. You dropped so many gems, by the way, in just that one question. One thing you talked about is, you were a pioneer in the space of building digital communities, right? That is a huge thing now. You have digital community experts, people that are strategists, and that you can pay into their courses to learn how to build a community. But it sounds like you were doing this very naturally early on. Not only did you do that, but you were building websites that blew up, went viral on the internet at the time. And then you built your own Live Civil. And even when you said with Flex, and they did that interview and audio, it was audio and video when Flex and Wayne did that interview. And I'm like, how would you have known that was important, right? How would you have known or foreseen these type of trends? Is it something that you were just like really paying attention to? Or do you think this is like a natural niche where you were just like, look, I thrive on the internet. I understand how people and folks work on the internet. And this is what I'm going to just pour myself into.
So interestingly enough, with Flex, I used to be on message boards. I used to see the comments and what people would say, like, hey, we can't listen to it. We can't this, we can't that. So I would give him feedback like, hey, you're available in the tri-state area. We should maybe stream. He's like, why would I stream? The station doesn't get money for that. And he explained advertising and things like that. I said, well, how about maybe making your freestyles available online? They're here. But then he was like, oh, the audio team leaves at 4:00. I'm sorry, they leave at 5 or 7 o'clock. This is when Angie's off. I said, okay. So for my birthday, that same year, the first year I started interning for him, I got a digital camera. So I used my digital camera at work for him, where guests would come in. I would take pictures. I would do whatever I needed to do. And I would give them to the team in the morning, say, hey, this guest came in. Can you please update Flex's, Hot 97 page? I wanted to make sure that he was updated. He was in the know. He knew what was happening. He didn't want to do the streaming. That was fine. I moved ahead and did it without him, with some other friends who were just in the music internet space. I don't even want to call them friends, more like just associates I knew. And Hot 97 found out. They were like, you cannot do that, XYZ, blah, 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 and tried to explain it to me. But I said, listen, you guys got to get onto the streaming thing. So many people love Flex. Now I get to connect, and this is as social is growing. I get to connect with people on the West Coast and other places. They want to hear these freestyles. Those freestyles meant a lot to like the hip hop head back then. And even when we launched with Wayne, I said, listen, people are going to rip. And this is when the New Music Cartel was forming. Love all of these guys to the day. And I said, Flex, they're basically, this is what I wanted you to do. The New Music Cartel, it's these group of bloggers who would take the music. Like if somebody would put it out, they'd record it and put it on their website. They'd have an exclusive. So I'm like, why would you play a song, but let somebody else have your exclusive and put the tags on it? So let's pre-record. And this is when we got into the pre-recording stages. Everything didn't need to be live. So we can test it, tape it, edit, do whatever. So it was pristine and put together. So let's pre-record with Wayne. We had the video set up. Tat Wizza, who was his associate producer. This is a lane he lived in. So he was happy too. He got to record it. So the day the interview came out, he kept dropping it. And it was funny because I believe the New Music Cartel was ready to rip it. As soon as the interview was done, Flex had the video up, everything was together. It was just about making sure everything was streamlined correctly. And I call it like a Bermuda Triangle effect. Everything on your social, like at the time, it was your website, your Twitter, your YouTube, whatever it is, those three components that you may have, everything needs to speak to one another. So they all need to connect, where after they finish listening to you on the radio, they should be then going to their computer to watch the YouTube. After they're done with the YouTube, then they're going to go to hot97.com/funkflex to see pictures or whatever else. You want people to be so immersed with you. And that comes from being in the fan club culture, especially with the Backstreet Boys, because I was so immersed. I wanted to know everything from the eye color to this, what's your favorite this and that. And I felt like instead of making it so personal about the person, make it about your work. And with Flex, I really was like, let's make it about your work. Everyone loves you. You're the king of New York when it comes to DJing. Let's do that. So whether he wanted to or not, I did it because I believed in it. And it honestly worked out. And now I see how, like, you know, I may not be working with him like that anymore. It's like now I see, even from like the way he does his YouTube videos. Now he's shooting music videos itself. He has a partnership with YouTube. I love things like that because we're never too old. And you can continuously reinvent yourself and do these things. And it's just having that gut and knowing and just keep going. Don't worry about the no's of the world. If it's for you and it's in your vision, it's there. I know I'm making it seem easier. It's easier said than done, but I'm telling you, when it's something that is like, this is my vision, I believe in it, I'm excited. You can see like I'm pumped. I feel like the veins, you can see my veins. I'm so excited. I would call like social media. I'm like, man, I just want to be the Kobe Bryant of this, the Michael Jordan. You find something you love, you attack it.
You attack it. Yeah. No, Karen, we only, this is so good. We only have a few more minutes. Okay. But as you're speaking, I'm taking notes because what I'm hearing you say is you have to listen to your audience, right? If you're building a digital community, listen to them, right? She was on the message boards, right? Stay connected to them, have that interaction and engagement. And also, don't be afraid to take risks and do things that are different because lo and behold, those became trends. The things that she was helping Flex do and Lil Wayne do back in the day is something, it's almost like the blueprint that we all do. And Karen, since you've been such a trailblazer in this space, you've, started these trends, identify these trends. What is your take on the future of social media and digital communities? Have you been able to identify any future trends that we should be paying attention to?
I will say COVID, people understanding the pivot, brick and mortar is changing, the office life is changing, setups and different things. And it's just the work from home. It's whatever you thought was the normal, we're never going back to that. So it's understanding the pivot, the space that we're in. We are now spending more time on our mobile devices. And the wonderful thing I will say from that is now you can pick and choose what you take in. It's not like normal television where it's like, oh, I have to watch this. Now we have digital TV. You can pick and choose what you want to watch on demand. When it comes to a video, a song, you don't have to wait till something's over or request it. You can just go ahead. So that's the one thing I will say. So the great thing that continuing to strive with social media is it is giving us the power to set what we want to do. Make sure as you're opening yourself up and you're on a business and things, you're also having those limitations, because something that you can have so much of it and it be a good thing, it can also be a bad thing. Where now, we have the envy and everything else. So make sure you're using social media, digital media, whatever's more comfortable with you, with the saying and the titles, you're using it to your benefit. But it's just honestly understanding the pivot. Those brick and mortars are gone, or a lot of them are gone. It's going to be changes in different things, how you can directly talk to your consumers and see what they like now, from how these companies have text apps where people can text you directly. With IG during a large part of COVID last year, people didn't even notice. A lot of small businesses, they helped a lot of small businesses make money, where there were people who were like, oh, nobody's liking my picture. I said that it doesn't matter. The picture is just a remembrance that you were there. That's all it is. It's just a quick timestamp. They're not pushing that anymore. It doesn't matter. So it's like their big thing is, let's try to help these businesses, with the Shopify, who are on Shopify and everything else. Let's help them get to their advantage. The same way, now we have the TikToks, the Facebooks. Everybody's now letting you make money through all of these platforms, even Twitter too now. So even if you're not on any of them, you find one that connects with you, you find one that works for you, And now you can make money. You can monetize every single one of, I'm talking Facebook to YouTube, everything can be monetized. Everyone has their own, everyone is creating their own audio rooms. Make sure you're a part of that. Just keep going with new audiences. You can bring in new audiences. You can bring in new consumers, and you're continuing to learn and engage. That's the most important. That's the most important part. But make sure you're getting into these different audio rooms, and monetizing different platforms. One video, I can post my one video, I'll put on 4 different platforms. I'm getting 4 different checks for them. It's not just about YouTube, it's Facebook, it's Instagram, it's Twitter. It's so many places this content can live.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you mentioned those videos, because you've curated such a pristine brand. It looks so good, well curated. And you know, you sort of pioneered that space as well. I think you were sort of like an influencer before it became a thing. And not only did you do that, but you created a brand that now works with so many other brands. You know, you're posting about working with Louis Vuitton, you know, Dior, you know, all these high-end brands, top tier celebrities you've been working with. How would you advise someone else who says, you know, I have a brand, I have followers, I have a community, but it's not monetized. What should I do? And how can I try to pitch myself to work with bigger brands?
So first is, I tell people, don't come into and be like, oh, okay, I have a brand. If you have a brand, if you're automatically saying that off the top, is like, I know what my brand can be. This is what I want it to be. This is what I see in the future. You have a full-on plan, right? And then from there, you want to turn your followers into engagers. And that means they're engaging with you, they're conversing and everything else. You want to turn those engagers into loyalists. And loyal means if somebody says something about you, you drop a video, whatever it is, you know, the believers, the this, the that. There's so many different people who have like loyalists. You think of like reference a Jackie Aina, an Aaliyah J, you know, Jada, Jada Chavez. So it's like all these girls have loyalists, and then from the loyalists, you want to turn them into consumers. And from that last step is when you eventually bring in maybe your merch or something you're selling, a place you're going to be, where now they are actually spending money on you. So it's something that takes time. I tell people to write out a real like set and goal list. This is what I'd like to achieve for my brand in the next 3 months. This is what I'd like to do in 6 months. This is what I'd like to do in 9 months to a year. So for me, I looked at Marcus Choi, who to me was one of the first original influencers. People act like that's a bad word, and it's no. Getting paid to be yourself and be an influence of culture and say what's cool, it's never bad, especially when it's a person of color. We spend the most money, but at times advertising is not towards us. So when you get an influencer who gets to come in and advertise towards us and get paid, I love it. I like it. I share it, even if I don't know you, because it lets me know that these companies understand the importance of this person. So for me, it was really looking at Marcus Choi, and Marcus Choi actually opened my eyes, because you know what? I stayed very small and committed, thinking only Black brands would want to work with me, maybe smaller. They'd never see me. I limited myself very early, and I took myself out of the game. And seeing him, he went on a ski weekend with like Rolls Royce and Moet. That's when I said, it wasn't even just about like, you know, material things, but the fact that this Black man is getting paid to be himself. I said, I love this. I absolutely love this. I want to be a part of this. I want to figure this out for myself with brands that I love, things that I love. I just want to be in the space and curate moments. It could be the smallest moment to the biggest moment. So I created a one sheet. The most important thing for me is figuring out who my audience was, what kind of phones they use, their age demo, knowing what kind of disposable income they had. At the time, I happened to go to Paris for a week. I had a speaking engagement, but I made it my business to connect with other women there prior. So I got a chance to go have meetings at Facebook, YouTube, Twitter. What else did I do? I think those were the basic ones. And they gave me all of this was before you could see your insights. They gave me all of my insights and told me all of this information. So I created a one sheet. And I was using this app on Twitter that tells me who follows me, who I should be engaging with, what time I should be tweeting. It's called Crowd Booster. I know there are other apps and things you can use now, but it helped me basically build my engagement, where I created this one sheet. And then I went to LinkedIn. I didn't go to the CEO of the company and email him, because I know 1,000 people are emailing him. I went to the person who was the marketing director, to the PR, who worked in the multicultural department. I made sure to hit those people. At times, people want to hit their goal or benchmark so quickly, they go past other people. So I made sure to reach out to them like, hey, I'd love to connect with you. My name is Karen Civil. This is my demo of my audience. And I wasn't just sending it to any random company. I sent it to companies that made sense for my audience. When I first started, I skewed very male because I was like in a hip hop field, all around guys. So I said, okay, I want to do some stuff with the NBA. I want to do more sneaker culture stuff, XYZ. And I'm going to slowly start to bring in a woman audience, where now I'm skewed more 70% female, 30% male. And it's like, I have to every 6 months reevaluate and see what my audience, what kind of phones they use, where are they located, what's happening, XYZ. So from there, I know how to reach out and different things like that. So it's really understanding your audience, getting all of that information. All of those analytics now are free. You can see them on your Facebook, your Instagram, all these things. Create a one sheet. And that's something that's not expected when it comes to us, especially, when it comes to influencer work. There's always the conversation we get paid less as opposed to our white counterparts. But we got to make sure that we have all of our ducks in a row. So when these companies come to me and say, hey, Karen, we have a budget of XYZ, I'm like, hey, unfortunately, I can't do that. This is what my one sheet is. You can see the audience I have. I give them all the information they need. I said, when you have, we can revisit this conversation when maybe your Q4 budget opens up, XYZ, and take it from there. And they honestly are like, oh, wow, she knows her stuff. Yeah, I'm prepared for this. You're not going to take advantage of me. And I'm not going to be excited for a free bottle of nothing. So that's really the most important part, is know your audience. I know I'm very long-winded, but know your audience. Make sure you're creating that one sheet. And when they reach out to you, they shouldn't be able to tell you nothing about your brand that you don't already know. So when at times these companies don't even have an idea, they know, all right, we know the importance of this said influencer. We need more of their demo in here, and they're looking for you to create something. And now that's even more money, because you're not even coming to me with an idea. You just want to attach yourself to me. So that's an extra fee. So it's just that it's so many different facets and components, but just making sure you know who your audience is. I think I've said this through this whole thing, is really understanding your audience, creating that one sheet, and starting to get the conversation out there, and just going from there. That LinkedIn, man, it's a savior. Don't worry about the CEO, man. Hit the marketing director and those people in between. Lifesavers.
Absolutely. Karen, thank you so much for your time and just demonstrating the power of social media and digital media through your craft. You have mastered the art. You've been in so many different lanes, and just really showed us all that you can do it. And it may not be a title for what you want to do. It can start off as a hobby, but that doesn't mean it's not a thing that you cannot create. So thank you for creating something that was not here, or a lot of us did not see beforehand. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you so much. I appreciate this conversation, and to the people watching, to you, more importantly, Selena, thank you so much. And I hope I was of help to the person watching.
Thank you so much, Karen, for all of the gems that you dropped during this conversation. I honestly could speak to you for another 30 minutes, but unfortunately, we are going to have to wrap here. So thank you again for joining us. And thank you all for joining us for day one of the Black Enterprise Entrepreneurs Summit, presented by our title sponsor, Nationwide. We appreciate all the speakers and sponsors that made this day so monumental. And we'll be back tomorrow for another action-packed day filled with the insight, tools, and resources you need to prosper in your business. Again, I'm Selena Hill, the Deputy Digital Editor at Black Enterprise, and I'll see you tomorrow.